Welcome to the Spring 2025 DSO training. My name is Casey Coleman, and I will be your guide through today's training. In today's training, we're going to cover a few different topics relating to bookable spaces on campus, some information in regards to programming on our campus, what spaces entail, some general reminders about programming, and talking about some important information as it relates to our department, the Center for Student Involvement, and some information in regards to important dates. So first and foremost, we want to start with the term DSO. So if you're not aware, DSO is a relatively new term on our campus. DSO stands for Department Sponsored Organization. And what a DSO essentially means is you are a club or organization that is not overseen by our student government. At Montclair State University, our student government oversees over 100 clubs and counting. But as a DSO, you sort of follow some slightly different rules and are sponsored by some sort of department on our campus. And as a DSO, you are not guaranteed funding. All RSOs through our SGA receive some type of funding. But as a DSO, you're not guaranteed funding. You have access to Engage, but you're not necessarily as formalized in all of your processes as maybe the student government is. And Engage, which we're going to show you briefly, you'll have access to, which is a great way to connect with students, but you will not be able to access room bookings. That will fall to your advisor or someone your advisor designates to you. So just briefly want to talk about spaces. So as student organizations on campus that are looking to host an event, we need some sort of request for the space. So as a student on our campus, every class you've ever attended, your orientation, any events you've maybe gone to, somebody at our university has had to request the use of that space. So almost every space on campus is bookable. We ask that all clubs or organizations put their requests in at minimum about 2 weeks in advance. That's because it just takes a long time to process. And, there are hundreds of clubs and organizations and only a handful of people that approve things. And so the more time you give us, the better it is. So as DSOs, we ask that your advisor book the space for you and then send us confirmation. We, as the Center for Student Involvement, will not approve anything until we get some sort of proof from the advisor or some sort of designee. This is what it can look like. Here you can see a quick example of a club or organization emailed student org events and said, here's confirmation of our room booking, and then we'll process it. It doesn't need to be anything super formal or anything long or drawn out, but we just need some sort of proof saying, hey, so-and-so has given us access to this, and you'll see that request come in. So I'm going to switch over now briefly to show you Engage and how to manually input events, and we're going to touch upon the roster function. So if you go over to Engage, uh, on your left-hand side, you should see different clubs or organizations that maybe you're a part of. For this demonstration, I'm going to use our event test page. And so if I were to go here, you're always going to want to be in the manage view. The manage view is your ability to sort of do things on the back end of Engage. The first thing I'll show you briefly is the roster function. So a common question we often get asked is, I'm part of this club, and I want to I'm the president now, but I need some access. So first and foremost, in order to manage a page, you have to join that page first. So we do see this happen sometimes with maybe honor societies where they were not active for a while and they're just getting back up and running. And so the first step is to join that page, and then you can go in here. And you can assign different permissions. So your primary contact can do that, or depending on your different permissions within the page. And so here I'm going to just show you an example. I'm going to remove someone here, and it's as simple as that. And now those permissions will change. So that is a little bit about the roster function and how that works. And so you can add people very easily. You can remove people. So if I wanted to remove someone, I can remove this person. And then you see here, they no longer have that position, and they'll just show up as a regular member. So again, that was under the page. I go to the manage view, or you can go right to the roster and choose that functionality. So if you have new eBoard members and you need to add them, they should join that page first, and then you can assign those positions as you need to. So we're going to go over to the event test page, and I'm going to click on events. So once you have some sort of access to your Engage page, you would go to events in that manage view, and you're going to click this blue button that says create event. And so for this example, I'll just say it's a bake sale. So you're going to give us the event title. That information is important. You need to assign some sort of theme for it. So we'll just say it's social. You would put some sort of description letting people know what's going on. Here you could list any other departments or colleges maybe you're co-hosting this event with. So you could search for a certain college if you wanted to, and list them as a co-sponsor. Maybe it's a department, depends on, who has pages and whatnot. But you would list them there. And then you're always going to want to hit add location manually. And so when you're talking with your advisor or admin or whoever sort of booking these spaces for you, you'll want to find out what exactly they're booking for you. And then you put that corresponding information in Engage this way. So let's say my advisor went in and booked the student center lobby for me from 12 to 1 on January 31st. I would put January 31st, 2025, 12 to 1, and I'll put the location in here. So you're going to click no, and then you would just be specific as possible here. So student center lobby, and then I'm going to hit save. And so now it'll show up as the Student Center lobby. You could add reoccurrences if, maybe this is your general body meeting or however often your group meets, you can put them all in one location. As we keep going down, you'll see event visibility. So this is important, and this corresponds to how things are sometimes found in like the Red Hawk News or other places. And so if you click public, anyone can access this. They can come across it. If you click students and staff at Montclair State University Engage, this will mean that people have to be logged in order to see it. They'll have to be logged in with their Montclair credentials. Maybe you're an honor society and you're doing an induction or something for a select amount of people. You could hit organization members and it will only show to those people. We recommend students either stick with the public or students and staff at Montclair State University Engage, depending on what it is. You'll see there's a whole slew of event categories here. So you could, we said this was a bake sale, so we'll just specify that this is a casual drop-by event. Perks, if there were any perks that corresponding to you would add it here. We'll hit next, move on to the next page. You can add information here about RSVPs if you want, add specific questions if you need to collect information. This is in regards to event feedback, so I'll click next. You could upload a photo. So here, you could upload a photo. Maybe it's a flyer, maybe it's a picture of a bake sale, whatever you were choosing. If you don't, Engage will just manually include some type of generic photo. And then you would continue to go through the submission. So I'm going to just hit complete submission to show you. And so you would do this. This would then get sent to our office. And so we will, again, not approve it until we get some sort of proof or confirmation from your advisor that you have that space. And the other thing I want to point out very quickly is here you'll see an access code. We'll talk later in the training as to what this access code can do and how to use it, but this is where that access code information lives once an event is created. So I'm going to continue on with our slides. So we'll continue to talk through some information, but that was essentially some of Engage's functionalities. We want to encourage all student organizations, no matter what their status is, to put their events on Engage because that's how other students find information. And so students are really knowing to look there for events. And so if you're not there, it's going to be very hard to grow membership and other things like that. So just some typical simple reminders we want to let our clubs and organizations know. So we broke this down by day of the week. This totally doesn't fully apply to you all as department-sponsored organizations as you might be working with faculty or staff, but these are just some general guidelines we encourage clubs and organizations to follow. I will quickly move through these. You will also be sent these slides as a part of your own studying. So you can review this video, you can review these slides on your own time, you can share these with your e-board member, but just some things we want to remind clubs and organizations. So if you're hosting an event on Monday or Wednesday, and our university is now switching to a term model, there have been some changes to classes and other things like that. So Just some general reminders that our Student Center on Mondays and Wednesdays is available from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. The fourth floor is only available until 10 p.m. Our Conference Center is available for a fee up until 10 o'clock. Classroom spaces will now be available from 2 to 3:30 because there is a brand new Common Hour. So the university is hosting a Common Hour on Mondays and Wednesdays from 2 to 3:30, meaning there are no classes held at that time. Um, if you are interested in meeting on a Monday or Wednesday later on, you'd have to book a classroom after 8:30 or work with your advisor, but all classroom spaces come as is, and there's no amplified sound allowed outside other than during Common Hour. If your organization was interested in hosting anything on a Tuesday or Thursday, Student Center follows some pretty similar rules. But again, classroom spaces on Tuesdays and Thursdays are only available after 8:30 p.m. And this would also mean if you were doing any type of events on Tuesdays or Thursdays, you would not be able to have any amplified sound as there is no common hour on those days. If your organization was interested in hosting an event on a Friday, again, Student Center follows the same rules. Classrooms are slightly different. They are available after 1 p.m. Again, you may want to work with your advisor, again, depending on certain things, but the other thing we want to remind is if you were having, maybe a Pioneer member outside on a Friday, you wouldn't be able to have any amplified sound as there is no common hour on Friday. So if your organization was interested in hosting anything on a Saturday or Sunday, again, Student Center follows those same rules. Student Center is definitely a main hub for students, clubs, organizations. It's a great way to meet. There's lots of different options within the building. Classroom spaces are available all day, and amplified sound is available outside before 6 p.m. So some spaces on our campus, we call them as is spaces. So this means the furniture and everything in it can't be adjusted or removed. They may have limited technology, and they don't require like setup and breakdown. Many of your organizations will probably be using some as is spaces. So we're going to highlight some of the features and what they mean. So first and foremost, we want to highlight tables. A lot of DSOs tend to book tables. They're a great way to connect with people. They're good for kind of popping by. It's a good way to just be visible. And so some spaces that are bookable are just tables. So this includes the Student Center lobby. The Student Center quad has tables outside. University Hall and Dixon Hall. They all have buildings that you can table in. If you're ever booking a table, your advisor's booking a table, it's just one table. Sometimes people think if they are booking a table, they're booking two or three. It's just one table. It's a 4-foot table. And so just keep that in mind. Some other as-is spaces are classroom spaces. So you as students at Montclair State University, think about where you take your classes. These are buildings like Sells, School of Business, Schmidt Hall, University Hall, Dixon. These are great opportunities as most classrooms are all equipped with standard technology. So that means, you can plug in your laptop, there's a projector, there's the ability to, gather, use the spaces in different ways. And they can, range to hold almost up to 40 people, depending on where they are. Some other as-is spaces also include University Hall lecture halls. So the first floor of University Hall are some of our largest bookable spaces for students on campus. Their capacity ranges from like 100 to 200. And again, they have that standard technology. These are good for maybe larger meetings or inductions or things like that. And so just keep those in mind as you're working with your advisor on spaces. Some other spaces on campus that come as is our student center dining room. The dining room has some interesting stipulations as it is used by dining services during the day. So it's really only available after 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Furniture cannot be moved in this space, and if your organization has found moving furniture, you will be billed for it. As many DSOs don't necessarily have an assigned budget, you definitely don't want to do that. There is no technology in that space, and so you would need to work with your advisor if you wanted a speaker or microphone or anything like that. Next, we want to talk a little bit about customizable spaces. So again, there are some spaces on campus that are customizable, meaning you can request furniture in a certain way that makes maybe sense for the purpose of your event. The setup is always going to be dependent of the space, the capacity, and what's available. There are a limited amount of resources available. So some spaces on campus that include customized setups include the Student Center ballrooms, the Red Hawk Nest, the Student Center Underground, the Student Center Quad, fourth floor spaces on the Student Center, including 411, 417, and 419, and then the University Hall Conference Center, which is available for a fee. So just some things to note as you're either working with your advisor or maybe you're an advisor watching this training as well. These are just some things that we try to encourage our students so they understand how rooms are intended to be set up. So classroom style, think again, maybe where you've taken classes or where you've taught classes, but this is essentially tables arranged in some kind of row with chairs. So these are ideal for maybe lectures or meetings or just general gatherings. Theater style is always going to be rows of chairs facing in the same direction. Um, these are good for maybe like a movie night if you're having guest speakers or someone come, maybe a bingo night or larger gatherings. So something to take note of. You could also potentially, depending on the space, add a stage if you needed to. Banquet style is another style we describe to students. So these are just round tables with chairs. And these are good for maybe like game nights, informal gatherings, networking events, or maybe meals, again, depending on what you're doing. And, if you're expecting a certain number of people, you would work with your advisor, work with our team to figure out exactly how many round tables do you need and how many chairs go around. Another style we want to talk about that sometimes gets students a little bit confused is conference style. So conference style would be long tables with chairs set up in a square or U shape. So these might be good for like e-board meetings or induction ceremonies, again, depending on what you're doing. But these are ideal for maybe smaller, more intimate gatherings and meetings. Fashion show style is theater style, but there's a stage included. We don't see this request come in super often, but we just want to highlight it as your organization may be thinking of some of these things. And then lastly is an open space. So maybe you're doing a rehearsal or you want a room with no furniture in it. You would want to try to request some sort of open and clean space so you could move around. If none of those setups align with your vision, then you would need what we call a custom setup. This would require you to probably talk with your advisor, or you could also talk with us. Setups are always going to be dependent on the space, the capacity, and what's available. And as I said before, there are a limited amount of resources. There are some emails you can talk to about people to learn more about event planning, highlighted on the screen. These are just some general programming reminders. We want to remind our clubs and organizations that we ask that like any events that include paint don't take place in spaces that have carpeting, and do your best to try to protect the furniture in the room. This is for all organizations to know, but you should not be occupying any spaces after your requested time. Space is at a premium on campus, and so we see this happen sometimes where students will say, "Oh, well, I didn't see anyone in here, so I thought we could just meet here." Um, there are thousands upon thousands of room requests that come in. Spaces are used all day and all night. And so you never want to take for granted who has access to a space or where a class might be taking place, etc. And so that's just some general reminders in regards to programming. A couple things that CSI does not allow. Are listed on the screen, and these are all due to like safety concerns. So we do not, as a university, endorse or allow anyone to hold like eating or drinking contests. There's huge liability posed with it, and so we don't allow that. We don't allow for any like rage rooms or smash a plate, any kind of unhealthy habit type programs. Our campus infrastructure cannot hold any like 5Ks or runs. If you wanted to maybe organize a jog or a run around the quad, that's a slightly different story. But a campus-wide run is just not something that our infrastructure can maintain. We also don't allow any type of fog machines or candles, as they can pose fire hazard or set off the smoke detectors. And then confetti, glitter, and foam are not allowed materials within the student center. We just want to remind clubs and organizations, if you're interested in having food at a program, you should really be working with your advisor. And gourmet dining, the university is in a contract with gourmet dining, and so student groups should be working with them first and foremost. A couple notes, and this is probably one of the more important slides for our DSOs. So, as DSOs, again, you're not guaranteed a budget, and so you may have to do a lot of fundraising. So, we just want to let you know that bake sales or food sales are allowed in the Student Center, University Hall, and Dixon Hall. Any bake sales in the Student Center lobby have to be booked at table STCT 1C04. That is the table parallel to the door across from the elevator. If that's confusing to you, reach out to CSI. I'll be happy to talk you through it. If you're selling hot food, it has to be sold in University Hall or Dixon Hall. Again, this is in agreement with Gourmet Dining Services. And then we just want to remind organizations that according to New Jersey law, a gambling license needs to be obtained if money is to change hands without the guarantee of a prize. So, for example, if your group wanted to have a bingo night, that's okay. But if your group was going to have a bingo night where people could buy more boards to have a better chance to win, that now turns it into a game of chance, and you should be working with your advisor to acquire a gambling license in order to fundraise that way. Just some other reminders for our DSOs here. So we have in CSI what we call some posting policies, meaning on the bulletin boards you'll see all around campus. Many of them are labeled and they'll tell you where you can post things. But any type of flyers you want to post physically, you have to come to CSI for approval. We will stamp anything for up to 2 weeks at a time, and materials can be posted in several locations across campus. If you're interested in posting anything in the residence halls, you should come to us first to get the general approval and then speak specifically with the community directors of those buildings. And we allow one poster or flyer per bulletin board. And again, we're not necessarily policing the content. This is a university requirement. They ask anything that gets posted just gets vetted by our office first. So just please take note of that. Next, we want to talk about check-in. So you as DSOs, you should be taking attendance at all your events. We ask that all organizations maintain attendance at events. This includes your general body meetings. And so you'll see on the screen here, you have the ability to download an app. This app is the Campus Labs check-in app. This is what it looks like. So you could download this app, and then as attendees come to your event, you would scan their event pass. So you can see a sample of an event pass here. Our department has some information about event passes that will be included in all of these materials that you may refer back to. But you would log into the Campus Labs event check-in app with your Montclair credentials, and then that access code I showed you before is what you would enter here. And using this app by scanning the event pass, you would then be able to run reports and get information about who attended. And so it links directly to Engage, and this is a university supported endeavor. So please make sure to take attendance at your events. Just some general reminders as well. So if you're planning on canceling any events, you should let us know as soon as possible. You should delete the event from Engage, so people know that it's not happening. We see this happen sometimes where clubs and organizations will cancel something, and then never tell anybody, and then people show up, and then, their feelings get hurt. So if you're not going to host something, just cancel it, and let people know. We encourage groups, don't wait until the last minute to cancel something, especially something that requires, shared spaces or equipment. Space is very limited, and there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to programming, especially in regards to staff, people's time, etc. You could, like I said, here on the screen is a quick sample of, how to cancel an event, what that could look like. Just send a little email. We want to remind clubs and organizations, if you need to edit your event, so let's say you submitted your general body meetings on Engage and you realize you made a typo, you can go back in and edit that. That's not a problem, but you'll need to just re-notify us, hey, I made an edit, can it get approved? Because it may sit in our queue for a long queue. I can never remember. I'm sorry. I'm human. But we can not the point. So yes. So if you have to edit something, we can reapprove it. It's not a problem, but just shoot us that quick email. And again, doesn't need to be super formal, but just send it our way. That way we can try to expedite that process. Again, just some general reminders for programming as it comes to, as students and learning. We encourage you to submit things within at minimum 2 weeks, just to give us some time to work through things. When you're working with your e-boards or other your faculty or staff, planning, gathering materials and volunteers. Really think through things, be realistic in maybe your setup time. How long is your event? Think about a run of show, what time are doors going to open, what are guests going to feel. Really try to walk through it. If not, or if you're struggling with that, you can always talk to our department. We'll be happy to talk to you about event planning. And then be cognizant of, cleaning up, closing, leaving spaces. You always want to try to leave things better than you found it. We want to encourage your organizations to remember to re-register. So on Engage, you'll see a button that'll say information about re-registering. So please make sure you have a full-time faculty or staff advisor. You have until February 7th to update your rosters with any new members and staff information. They have to be full-time. Part-time staff and adjuncts do not meet this requirement. All DSOs should have at least one undergraduate student registered as a president. And then your organization should have at least a treasurer or some other leadership position there with you. We encourage all groups to have at least 7 registered students, and then failure to re-register may result in you not having access to book spaces or your spaces getting approved. If your organization is interested in expressive activity, please note there is a new expressive activity policy, and then there's an expressive activity form that can be found on Engage and will also be linked. If you have any questions about anything you saw in this training, our contact information is on this screen. So you can see an email here, student org events. This is an inbox that multiple people in our office manage. So you could send some information there. We'd be happy to help you. We have some information regarding policy. Our office is located on the first floor of the Student Center, down the hall from the massage chairs. We encourage you to come visit. We are open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then lastly, we would just want to highlight some important dates as you're working with your clubs and organizations or your leadership team or your faculty, whoever you're working with, just some things to take note of. And so room bookings will open on January 10th at noon. And that's the first day groups are allowed to submit requests. So again, this training will be sent to you. There is an assessment you will need to be completing, which will also be linked in the email that you're going to get. And make sure you just complete that so you don't run into any problems. The first day of classes is January 17th. We are hosting some new student involvement fairs and some opportunities. Those are also outlined in the email. I encourage you to check them out and consider signing up. These are great ways to meet students in different ways. Ad drop ends on January 27th. We're allowing student organizations, January 29th is the first day to hold programs. If you've worked with your faculty or your staff on doing events before that, that is okay. You just need to, again, pass that information along to us. I'm not going to read through all of these dates, but be cognizant of spring break. And then we want to just give some special plugs that World's Fair Day will be held on April 24th, 2025. And then the last day we're allowing student organizations to hold programs is April 27th, as the semester ends about a week later in early May. And we want to make sure you focus on finals. That concludes our training. We wish you the best of luck this semester, and we can't wait to see what you're going to do.